What's up, everybody? My name is Tucker. In today's video, we're going to be talking about some things that I am already wrong about to begin this NBA season. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like rating on it and subscribe to the channel as well for more videos just like this one every single day. With those things said, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, first one, because this is the one that not only was I probably the most passionate about, but probably the one I've been most wrong about as well. And it's the Chicago Bulls. It's not that I thought the Bulls were going to be bad. I think my exact analysis was I didn't think they were going to be a top team in the Eastern Conference. I had some real concerns about them defensively from a personnel standpoint. I didn't see a lot of really good defenders in this roster. I didn't like the depth. I didn't know how the Vucevic thing was going to fit. And probably my biggest concern above it all was the DeMar DeRozan fit. It felt like, okay, I like Lonzo, I like Caruso, that works with LaVine, they've got Patrick Williams, and then they brought in DeRozan, and I just didn't really understand how that was going to fit. But, I mean, for one thing, DeRozan has been fantastic. He's not playing right now, but he has been playing out of his mind. He single-handedly won them that Nets game the other night because he just hit shot after shot after shot. He's been incredible for them. And that just really kind of informs everything you need to know about this team is everybody is just playing above expectation, it feels like. DeRozan's playing incredibly well. LaVine's doing what he's doing. Defensively, they're amazing. They are incredibly disruptive. They are active, they're engaged, even without Patrick Williams, to the point where they don't really have, a ton of guys they can throw out there that really match up with the likes of Kevin Durant and things like that. It doesn't matter because they've got Lonzo and Caruso just creating absolute havoc in the backcourt. They've got a handful of different wings, including the rookie that they throw out there and just kind of hope for the best for. And he's been good. Troy Brown's been decent. Derrick Jones has been okay as a backup five. And all of this is happening even while Vucevic really, I would say, has been a pretty big disappointment. And the bottom line is the Chicago Bulls are very, very good, and they're basically the one seed in the Eastern Conference right now. And so the biggest thing is defensively. I mean, offensively, they've been fine. They've been incredibly efficient despite not being a big three-point shooting team. But really, it's just been, I did not anticipate them being an above-average defensive team, and they've been even more than that. They've been one of the best defensive teams in the league, and that has a lot to do with how hard they play, with the backcourt combo of Ball and Caruso. And it's just a fun team to watch. They're really exciting. They continue to win these games, even when they're shorthanded. They've been winning games without Patrick Williams. Now they're winning games without DeMar DeRozan. And the Williams thing is unfortunate. It's going to set back his development for sure, and it might limit their ceiling in totality for the season. But they are certainly on pace to be a top four team in the East this season, and that is definitely higher than I had them going into the season. So absolutely, I was wrong about Chicago, and I'm willing to admit that. Next up, let's go in the opposite direction. A team that I thought was going to, worst case, be decent, be a postseason contending team, and they just haven't been, and that's the Indiana Pacers. I made the case for them before the year where they just had a lot of options. They had a ton of depth. They had guards, wings, bigs. They had, a ton of different guys they could throw out there on any given night. They could withstand injuries. I thought that Rick Carlisle was a significant upgrade from the coach that they had previously. I still believe that last part, by the way. It just hasn't been a good start to the year for them. They haven't been healthy. They haven't been connected. And I think bottom line at this point, it's just a roster thing they need to adjust. Whether it be, the big guy stuff with Sabonis and Turner, whether it be consolidating some of their assets to where they have some guys that raise their ceiling a bit more rather than just, they have a lot of good NBA players, but they don't have a lot of true ceiling raisers, guys at kind of the top of their class, at the top of their position. And I think that's probably the biggest issue with Indiana, apart from the injuries and things like that. But I was absolutely wrong. I mean, every team's going to go through injuries and missing players, but for the most part, this just is not a good roster. It's just not a good team. And maybe I just undervalued how important Victor Oladipo was to them, because for the longest time, this is what Indiana was. They had a lot of good basketball players, but then they also had Oladipo and Sabonis, and I just undervalued how important he was to them. I thought that Brogdon and Duarte and all the other guards and wings they have would have been able to make up for the loss of Oladipo, obviously just not being part of the roster anymore. But that simply hasn't been the case. So again, absolutely, I was totally wrong about that for Indiana. Next up, not specific to a team, but let's get to a trade thing. I thought that Bradley Beal would have been moved by now, or that it would have been imminent leading up to the trade deadline, and I no longer believe that to be the case. It just seems like they're really content just sticking it out, not having him sign an extension and figure it out in free agency this offseason. And a lot of that has to do with some of the moves that this front office has made over the last couple of off seasons to really put themselves in a much better position now. To think about where they were with Beal and John Wall, who wasn't playing, who was hurt, and they didn't really have any other answers on the roster, to where they are now with an interesting team with a lot of different options, with flexibility moving forward, with Dinwiddie there. They move Westbrook. And I think it's partially, it's a large part, the moves they made in the front office and how much more competent the organization appears to be now. And that is a big reason why Bradley Beal appears to want to stay. But I also think I overvalued how much he wanted to leave in the first place. And I think that I was reading a little bit too much into some of these rumors out there about him being unhappy and just assuming, well, every other star ever has wanted to leave their situation when the context has been this way. So I'm assuming Bradley Beal will as well. And I just assumed too much, and I should not have. And ultimately, I believe I'm going to end up being wrong. I would be shocked if Bradley Beal does get moved before the deadline. And it kind of seems like he's going to re-sign, continue to run it back in Washington, and he is content to just continue to have this front office and this team continue to build around him rather than going to be someone else's, second or third option somewhere else. I respect that. And like I said, I'm totally fine admitting being wrong about that. Next up, going back to the teams here, the Lakers. And this is a weird one because from the minute the Westbrook trade happened, I made a video saying they lost the trade and they shouldn't have made the deal and they should have done the Buddy Hield thing. So I had anticipated that the Russell Westbrook thing was going to be an issue. However, I also still thought that they were one of the contenders in the Western Conference, and I just no longer believe that. I don't know at what point we just have to give up and stop giving the Lakers the benefit of the doubt and keep thinking, oh, they'll figure it out. They've got LeBron, they've got Anthony Davis, they'll be fine. They're a 500 basketball team, and they have been for the entire year. And at a certain point, you are who you are until you start winning 6, 7, 8 games in a row and showing us something and having a really good month and showing some kind of consistency from game to game. You are who you are. And I firmly believe that if this exact same roster existed in Milwaukee, we would not be giving this team the benefit of the doubt the way that we are to the LA Lakers. Now, granted, by the time we get to the postseason, could they be a contender again? Absolutely. That was the case in the beginning of the year, was even if the Westbrook thing didn't work out, and I didn't anticipate that it would, you still have LeBron, you still have Anthony Davis, and most of the time that's still good enough to create a really good team and a contending team. And that could still be the case. Absolutely. I thought that it would have shown itself through more during the regular season, especially, my doubts about the Westbrook thing had more to do with the postseason than it did the regular season. But they're a 500 basketball team. I think it's okay to admit that that's where they are right now, with the possibility existing that they might be able to improve moving forward. But in terms of the Lakers being contenders, I got that one wrong. And then last up, another trade thing. I definitely thought we would have had a Ben Simmons resolution by now. Whether, if you had asked me during the offseason, I just didn't think that Philly would stick to their guns on this and really, really wait this out during a season in which Joel Embiid is obviously fantastic. And I just didn't think they would be so willing to potentially waste a healthy Embiid season. And granted, the trade deadline is not passed yet. There's still opportunities to move Simmons, and the situation is not over. I had anticipated a resolution well before now. And if you'd asked me to predict when Simmons would have gotten moved, I would have guessed last offseason. And then going into the year, I would have guessed it would happen on kind of a James Harden-like timeline within the first couple of weeks of the season. And that just hasn't happened. So amongst a handful of things I've been wrong about with the Simmons situation, that's probably the biggest one, is just the timeline of it. And I've kind of given up guessing where he's going to end up going. Now it kind of seems like Portland would be a really good option, but it just comes down to, is Philly going to be willing to lower their asking price and not get an all-star and 6 pick swaps in exchange for Ben Simmons, and realize that they have a real opportunity to compete at the top of the Eastern Conference, and the league, apart from Phoenix and Golden State, is pretty wide open. And to just kind of throw away a season in which Joel Embiid is healthy because you don't want to move Ben Simmons and you want to make sure you get 110% value for him seems a little bit foolish to me. But ultimately, all that leads me to the point that, I was wrong about the Simmons thing, just as I was wrong about every single thing on this list. I like to do this on occasion to kind of remind myself of a couple of things. One, it's okay to be wrong about stuff. I think every single prediction that I had in here that I ended up being wrong about was rooted in things that made sense, just didn't end up being correct. I'd much rather be wrong in a way that makes sense than be right in a way that makes zero sense. But I also like to remind myself that, I can be wrong, and it's okay, and it's just part of it. And hopefully it reminds you guys that as well, that I'm under no impression that every single thing that I ever say on this channel is absolute fact, absolute truth, and I'm never going to be wrong about anything. And then I'm totally okay admitting when I am wrong about things, as I have been about these things to begin the season. Certainly will not be the last things that I will ever be wrong about on this channel. But with those things said, I hope you guys did enjoy the video. Let me know down in the comment section below some other things that you guys maybe were wrong about, some things you were really passionate about at the beginning of the season that just have not come true as the season has progressed. But that is going to be the end of today's video, and I thank you guys very much for watching. Once again, my name is Tucker. If you missed any of my previous videos, be sure to check out the box on screen, and as I said, subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this every single day. With all those things said, hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you all next time.